Hello and welcome to Book O'Clock, where we clock in with a new book to give an honest review. This podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Music, as well as here on Anchor. I will be breaking this review into 4 parts. 1, the book title, author, synopsis, and tags I'd use to classify it. 2, my spoiler-free general review of the book as a whole. 3, my spoiler warning, which includes my tells and feels during the book, mild spoilers to my favorite or least favorite parts. And 4, my overall rating of the book out of 10. So let's get those pages turning with a book called Haunting Adeline. Now, I'm going to preface this review as a trigger warning. This book is not for the faint of heart. This was a great read. I love it. But I do not recommend this book for everybody, and this may be a very intense review for some. This has some really intense trigger warnings. I will state some of them now, so be prepared for that. I'm going to state those trigger warnings now, but look up the rest of them if you are interested in reading this book. Please check them out properly before getting this book. Trigger warnings to this book include sex trafficking, stalking, rape, gunplay, questionable consent, fear kink, and more. There is a lot more than that, but those are some of the darker, more intense triggers of that. This book is called Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. It is a dark fantasy mystery thriller, adult horror romance. It is the Cat and Mouse Duet Book 1. So there are 2 of these, but again, remember, trigger warning. But I will read the synopsis. It is split into 2 parts because this book is written as a lot of the books are where it's the 2, it's hard to say romantic leads, but the 2 romantic leads, which is Adeline and Z, also known as Adeline is the manipulator and Z is the shadow. The manipulator. I can manipulate the emotions of anyone who lets me. I will make you hurt, make you cry, and make you laugh and sigh, but my words don't affect him, especially not when I plead him to leave. He's there, watching and waiting. I can never look away, not when I want him to come closer. The shadow. I didn't mean to fall in love, but now that I have, I can't stay away. I'm mesmerized by her smile, her eyes, the way she moves, the way she undresses. I'll keep watching and waiting until I can make her mine, and once she is, I'll never let her go, not even when she begs me to. Like I said, dark. This is a dark theme, very stalker themes. This book, here's my review. This book is full of red flags. Red flags, red flags. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to read about a good red flag relationship. I don't want to be in one. If this was in real life, I would not be okay with this scenario. However, as a read, loved this read. It takes place in kind of a modern time. Main character Adeline is a successful author, and the main male character is a hacker who created an organization to stop sex trafficking and pedophiles. So he tracks them, catches them, frees the girls, and provides them with safety, and murders pedophiles and people who take place in sex trafficking rings. So, all around dark themes, just straight off page 1. Very adult. There is a lot of smut in this book, so they're gonna say cock and pussy and lots of things like that. There's sex, and it's hot. It's hot sex. It is hot interactions. It'll get you in the mood, that's for sure. Again, but it is red flag. It is red flag written. The consent between the 2 characters is questionable at best. There's definitely not a yes, and she does say no, and he'll still do it. So it's 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 a good read, but just keep in mind that not a faint of the heart read. It's not for everybody, but it is a really, really well-paced book. They move through part to part quickly. It's got a really unique plot with him, fighting sex trafficking rings and her being an author and her going through something on her own, which is solving a murder mystery cold case from her grandmother. So she's solving a murder in her life with her friend while the person who is stalking her is fighting sex trafficking rings. So there's a lot of plot to this book, but it is really well paced. The main character is really strong. She's got great character development throughout the whole book. She's unique. She makes good choices. She's smart. She's strong. She's beautiful. And, I'm partial to a good female character lead. But even better than that, she has a best friend who is also a female character who is also strong and good in character development and just an all-around bonus to have in the book, and really enjoyed her presence as well. It does involve a lot of fear tactics and a lot of kink play in this book, so keep that in mind. There's a fun use of past and present, so I don't want to say each chapter, but each couple chapters is prefaced by a note from a diary she finds that kind of tells a story about what happened in her grandmother's life with I don't want to reveal the plot in this section, but the past events and the cold case murder. So it'll be a journal page and then go into modern day of what they're talking about. And it may not even relate to the journal page. They don't talk about the journal page, but you get to read the journal as well as reading the book. So it's a very fun use of relating to things that happened before and things that are happening now. And it really helps carry the plot and tie things around. The plot between him is nice. The plot with her is nice. The plot of the cold case murder is nice. It's just a really fun plot and really unique development. And every character gets under your skin, whether in a good way or a bad way, and you just kind of like to read about them. So again, fast-paced. I read this book in one day. It's about a 550-page book, and I burned through it in less than 10 hours because it's addicting. It had me in a chokehold, and there's a lot of choking, so that makes sense. But we're going to get into the more intense section of this, which is the spoiler warning. From here on out, I will be reflecting on my feelings during the book. This may contain mild spoilers. If you'd like to read this book for yourself, you may clock out now. Check out my other reviews and recommend more for me in the comments. This book is fucked up. I mean that in the most intense way possible. This book is fucked up. She does not say... She says no. I mean, he stalks her. He stands outside her house, scares her. She tries to call the police, and he's like, don't do that. And she brought a guy back to her house once, and he was like, don't do that. And if you bring him back, I'm going to send his hands. I'm going to cut off his hands and put him on your porch. And he did exactly that. He kidnapped the guy and killed him, cut his hands off, and put him on her porch. So she opened a box with dead guy's hands on them. He broke into her house after that because he was mad that she did that, and he quite literally fucked her with a gun. He held a gun to her head, and then he fucked her with it, put it up her vagina, and she liked it. I'm not saying you can't like gunplay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it is an intense read. That's what I'm saying. The only thing that I do have a problem with is the fact that it was not really consensual. If you like that, that's fine. Do you? But at least make it consensual, please. It is very adult themed, not for the faint of heart. I'm going to say that a million times, I know. But when things are consensual towards the end of the book, the sex is hot as fuck. That is some spicy sex they have, and it is in detail. And it makes you horny. Let's be honest. It makes you jealous in a sense, and you want some of that. It's good. Yeah. there's a use of fear kink where it is explained, especially with the fact that there's a lot of lack of consent at the beginning, where it kind of becomes kind of becomes consensual towards the middle end, because she's getting off on it and he knows that, and she's starting to realize that she does as well. So if it was consensual from the start, fine. But it's explaining and going into the fact that, like, some people have a kink of being afraid gets them aroused. So, like, doing sex in public where somebody could catch you is arousing, or being scared out of your mind is arousing. So, like, he scares her and then does things to her to make her finish. So, it's not a topic I've read about before, but it was a fun read. Zaid has a very Zaid has a very triggering line of work with the heroic sex trafficking, pedophilic, murdering, saving stuff that he does. He brings that into the way that he wants to essentially own Addie. He falls for her and he doesn't want to lie to her and be like, I'm a nice guy, because he's like, I'm not, I'm fucked up, I kill people for a living and I stalk pedophiles. And so he stalks her to show him who he really is and win her over, which I vaguely see what he's trying to do with, like, I want you to know that this is my line of work and I'm a bad guy. But I feel like he could have done it in a way that wasn't stalking. He could have just outright, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know he doesn't want to be like, hi, I'm the leader of this organization. Nobody knows my true identity, but I'm going to tell you, because he didn't trust her and she didn't trust him yet. But the idea of, like, the way he introduces himself is by stalking her house and standing outside her windows and watching her get dressed and breaking into her security system. And, it's something. And I'm not sure how I get what you're trying to do, and I don't know how I agree about it. Again, I can get it. The consent. The consent is Consent is sexy, and it is not consentful in this book, but the book is still sexy. I mean, he breaks into her house multiple times, leaves roses around her house while she's in it, fucks her while she's saying no, and then he's like, I'll be back and I'll do it again. And she calls the cops and it doesn't work. This is my first ever time, again, reading about gunplay. It was really scary, and it has a lot to do with fear kink. So if that's something you're into, please do it safely. But that is not for everybody to read. It was frightening. It does have romance in the book, but it does have that kind of feeling, at least at first, of, like, Stockholm Syndrome romance, where, like, you're forced into a scenario and you fall in love with your captor because he kind of captured her. He follows her everywhere. He never lets anything happen. He's protective, but she starts to develop feelings for him because he's always there and everything's going on. So it's like a forced proximity, Stockholm Syndrome romance, and he threatens her, like, if you don't fall in love, you're going to fall in love with me. If you don't fall in love with me, you're not going to be able to be with other people. I'll kill them. I'll cut their hands off. It's a romance. It's a hot romance. It's this is a hard one to talk about because I loved this book, but it is fucked up. So everything about it is just fucked up, and I liked it. I don't want it to happen to me. I'm going to make that clear, but I really like reading about this in the second book because, like I said, this is a cat and mouse duet. There's two. There's Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, which I will be reading next. I'm obsessed with this series, but it's dark. It was a really good use of past and present. The solving the murder was really fun, and I'm a murder crime-solving fanatic. I love true crime. So the fact that true crime was part of this book and her looking for clues around the house, trying to solve a cold case that was years and years and years old, was fun, and that she does develop a relationship with Z in the end, and you start to see his character development because it is a good character development. She has great character development, and the way their relationship starts is fucked up, but they do have really good character development throughout the book, and it was just fun to read. The healthy relationship between her and her best friend is unique. I feel like a lot of the times in books and things, like the best friend's always bitchy, or there's like it's always like so cliche style writing, but like her and her best friend just have a good relationship together, and it's refreshing and it's nice, and they do things together and they hang out, and it just feels genuine. And like her stalker Z isn't opposed to it. He's like, yeah, hang out with your friend, like it's good. Like that part was just really healthy and nice, and I was like, that's nice that you can have a friend. I grew up I was in toxic relationships in my life that I wasn't allowed to have friends, or being with my friends was too much, or something. Like, even if their relationship is slightly fucked up and toxic, the fact that she could have that healthy relationship with her best friend that he trusted and was good was really nice. This book is definitely a page turner and is definitely a thriller. It was a roller coaster of emotions the whole time. It was scary, which got me on the edge of my seat because I love true crime. And it gripped me. I really, really like this book, and I cannot wait to read the next one. So that is my overall review of Haunting Adeline. I'm going to rate it an 8 out of 10. I would rate it harder? Nope. I would rate it higher if there was consent. But I mean, then that would change the whole aspect of the book. However, whatever. This book's good. I recommend you read it, but if you're sensitive, maybe not. And I'm going to preface this now. I know from quick reviews of Hunting Adeline Book 2 that there is possibly even more triggers than in Book 1. So I will find out upon reading it literally today. And I will be back with that next review. But for now, I'm clocking out. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!